With protein dominating headlines and our grocery carts, where does plant proteins fit in, especially with some of the discussion around health benefits and quality? Stay tuned. Welcome back to Rooted and Restless. I'm your host, Marianne Smith Edge. And April is the perfect time to talk about soy foods and soy protein because it is Soy Food Month. And I have the perfect guest and expert to talk about. Today, I have Michelle Bryan, a PhD nutrition researcher, a lot around protein, who really has almost 2 decades of expertise in working in research, especially around soy protein as well. Michelle and I met probably almost 15 years ago when I was working with the International Food Information Council. But little did we know that actually our roots, or at least where we live, are much closer than being in D.C. and Kentucky. Michelle lives on a farm, actually a family farm, literally across the river. Now, sometimes we would say that river's really wide, but you're really not that far away. So Kentucky, Western Kentucky and Southern Indiana, there's only a bridge. So thanks for coming across the bridge today and really talking about this whole aspect of soy protein and the importance. So glad you're here today.
Happy to be here, Marianne. Thank you.
So I mentioned a little bit that you like me, do have a farm background. So let's kind of talk a little bit about your journey from the farm to how you got into the whole aspect of nutrition research.
Oh, absolutely. Glad to. I did grow up on my family farm. It is a corn, soy, hay, beef farm. And being my father's only son, I worked on the farm most days in the summertime. And when lunchtime rolled around and the dinner bell rang that my grandma would put dinner together for all of us, I also helped to put food on the table, doing double duty. That served me well as I went on to college and leveraged the experience I got in 4-H in both the beef barn and in the foods project. And that's something anybody across the country can tap into. But it led me to pursuing my graduate degree at Purdue University, our large land grant university in Indiana, and working in clinical research there. And that really set me on my pathway of having a focus in clinical research that I applied in the food space. I had the opportunity to work with someone who kind of spanned both nutrition and food, and I've carried that through industry, ag, and back to the association space now in my professional career.
And Michelle is, I failed to mention, and she is the current director of partnerships, if it's correct, for the Soy Nutrition Institute.
Yes, the association that brings together farmers and food producers and researchers to kind of fill the gaps in our understanding in terms of what we can glean from the literature on soy's effects on human health.
So a perfect combination. It sounds like your summers sound very similar to my summers, only it was a dairy farm and showing dairy, but also the food source. Let's talk a little bit about, with your background and understanding, obviously, production. And this part of the country, like many, are experiencing a early spring. So if you all listening aren't familiar with this area, it's very flat. So there really is many of the land are on riverbanks, and so you're driving down the road. You're already seeing a lot of fields being planted, and I've even seen a little bit of soy. I know our farm is everything's going in soy this year, so the farmers have enjoyed the warm weather. We're just hoping that the floods don't come in that regard. But I think the question a lot of times when folks see crops, and obviously our conversations about soy, is the question is, so is this really being grown for human food or animal food? And so I'd love your input on, what we grow in this area, Midwest, on is it really going into human food? And then also the question is edamame. Obviously soy, but is it grown here? Give us a little insight where that's coming from.
Yeah, so sure, absolutely. The soy that we see when we're driving down the road can be used in human food later in the season. It's just popping up out of the ground right now, and it's an exciting, beautiful time of the year. I love it. I get so excited. But the soy that we see that will become those green leafy plants that we can't quite figure out what it is, but most people driving down the road, when it is harvested in the fall, can be used for oil, and that's the vegetable oil we see in the grocery stores, or it's often used in restaurants. But what it's also, that power of that bean is the protein, and that protein that is in the bean can be used as an ingredient in a variety of foods. Kind of familiar foods to our Western palates. There is also grown in the Midwest food grade soybeans. That's what they're called, but it's really that special varieties, tailoring the varieties to deliver on the particular food science aspects that are expected by Asian consumers. Soy is very well accepted and widely used in Asia for tofu, tempeh, soy milk, and products such as edamame, where there are special varieties to deliver on those functional attributes, including color. I get to travel now through my work to Southeast Asia, and I've tried black soy milk. So even though we always think of getting those yellows, but they have very specific taste and interest there. Edamame, it can be a special variety as well. It's just harvested at a more immature state. Most of the beans that are in the Midwest are harvested at a later time where they're drier, which can have a positive impact on just stability and storage over time. We have to take special care with the edamame. But yes, absolutely, any bean we see here in the Midwest can show up on our plates.
So when you were talking about soybeans, other than edamame, obviously is harvested usually in the fall when it's dry. So I just have to insert this quick comment. You can appreciate it. Growing up near Cincinnati, Ohio, didn't grow any soybeans. And so the first time I was in Western Kentucky, and actually I was a 4-H agent for a couple of years, and I come back in the office and I said to the agriculture agent that, what is going on? All these fields are drying up. And of course, that's normal. So, remember in the fall, if you start seeing all these fields dry, it doesn't mean that the crop is fine. It's just that is the process. The leaves dry. So there you can combine. But
yep, we're letting nature do what it needs to do so that we don't have to apply energy to dry those crops down for storage later. It's a very elegant process that's been worked out over many decades.
It works really well. It just sometimes if you don't know what's going on. So, well, go from let's go production to when we talk about protein quality. And, in fact, I've talked about animal protein with others, so talking about soy, I think perception versus what's really reality when we talk about animal versus plant protein. What's some of the latest findings in regards around this whole protein quality?
It's a moving target these days as it relates to protein quality, and we really have made things quite confusing for the consumers when it comes to figuring out what they should be selecting when they're choosing foods to put into their bodies. We the Soy Nutrition Institute, with the support of U.S. Soy, partnered with IFIC to conduct a spotlight survey with consumers to drill down on exactly that topic. What do consumers know and want to know as it relates to making purchases and choices for protein? We know that and the survey underscored this, just to reiterate that it's one of the top things that drive choice. They are seeking protein, and they first look to front of pack to help to inform those decisions. And from your line of work and over the years that we would love for consumers to flip that pack over and look at the nutrition facts panel where they can can find more information, including, the quantity of protein, which is still one of the top things that they are seeking to kind of inform their choices. But another piece that you find on package is that percent daily value. How much does this product provide to me to help me meet my daily needs? And that reflects protein quality, which, and again, consumers are not thinking about protein quality the way food scientists and nutritionists are. We have to think about amino acids and digestibility and really complicated calculations. And they just want to know what's going to support my health. So our most direct way to communicate with them is on package, but we aren't very good at helping them to discern that information. Percent daily value is optional, but it does reflect protein quality. And anything on front of pack, if it says 8 grams, that also has to reflect a high quality source of protein. So you mentioned animal proteins, plant proteins. Those are all high quality sources of protein in terms of soy and egg and milk and others, which means they deliver or they provide all of the essential amino acids in the appropriate proportions and are well digested, so they can meet the needs of both children as well as adults. So protein quality is the equation that is seeking to make that decision easier for consumers, but they don't really understand it. So in our survey with IFIC, we asked them, what does protein quality mean? And the top answer that they provided was tastes good. So that just underscores that consumers really are most concerned with taste, cost, convenience. These are the things that we know are driving their decisions. Right. And these more nuanced or complicated aspects of protein quality, maybe it's just too much on package, and we need to be reaching them with this information in a different way, because in the absence of them understanding what's on package, they're kind of building their own systems for and frameworks and calculations. You can find really complicated spreadsheets online that consumers have put together to try to make sense of the protein landscape.
So you mentioned the percent of daily value. Is there a range that we should look at when we're looking to know that, that's a good product?
Yeah. It's really about someone's personal dietary pattern, and it's more than protein. While protein is one of those drivers, it's really about having a healthy dietary pattern that's targeted to your needs, where you are in life. Someone who's, I have young active athletes in my household, and when I'm trying to help them to make choices, get your protein. It's the same advice my dad gave me. Eat the protein foods first off your plate, but then you also want to make sure you get your fiber and your vitamins. And there are some things that we don't prioritize, right? We know the fat and the cholesterol are going to come with some of those foods, but we're not going to put that at the top of the plate. That's going to come later if the tummy space remains, the cookie after dinner and whatnot. So the protein math can help to simplify if someone is trying to hit a certain target for their needs in the day. That can be an easy marker of the quantity, but we don't want to forget about all those other important nutrients that have to come around the protein. And remember that protein quantity is a little bit of a moving target these days. It used to be we were trying to reach 0.8 grams per kilogram of our body weight per day, which already there's some hard math there. You gotta convert to pounds and everything. And the finish line has kind of been pushed out from us with the new dietary guidelines to say that we need maybe a little bit more for optimal health. So I think more about what's that quantity of protein in an eating occasion that will meet my needs to help me meet my total goal for the day. But what else comes along with that for my dietary pattern?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good message that with some of the discussion around protein, regardless of the source, that's being lost a little bit, because from GLP-1s to, sports nutrition, it's, the discussion's been protein, but the key is that it's part of an overall pattern. That's what's so important. So let's talk about, I mentioned, soy and health benefits, and sometimes there's also, we know the benefits are there, but we also have heard some of the myths. But I think there's always new research. I mean, that's the advantage, and especially what you do is always looking at what is the research. And so what's some of the current insights that we know about the importance of including soy in our diets and related to health?
And I'm going to go back to that IFIC survey one more time, because we ask a question about products they seek and from protein and healthfulness. They just want it to support their health goals, and which of course is very personal, but cardiovascular disease is one of the leading causes of death, where many of us are walking around with risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease. But in the U.S., we've kind of gotten a mixed message as it relates to soy's ability to have a benefit for risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease. So the Soy Nutrition Institute recently partnered with some of our members to do a systematic review and meta-analysis in collaboration with the University of Toronto, and first just looked at the landscape of data. What studies have been done with soy protein interventions and these risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease. So think total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, ApoB, the things you hear about when you go to the doctor, blood pressure, etc. But within that work, by looking at the landscape of literature, 88 high-quality studies were identified. 88. And if you ask the same question over and over again, you're not going to get exactly the same answer. I'm sure you know that in your line of work. But across the 88 studies, when you look at the totality of the evidence through meta-analyzing the data, it absolutely supports that soy, and we can even, discern down to a dose, about 20 to 25 grams of soy protein per day can have a clinically meaningful impact on risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease. So it gives us a bit more confidence in even though we've heard over the years kind of some ups and downs in terms of, is soy really heart healthy or not? That health claim does exist in multiple countries around the globe, including the U.S. And by looking at that data in this way, we're able to have confidence in saying, yes, soy does have this factor, this healthfulness factor, that to help to meet the needs, not just for protein, but for this important risk factor that impacts so many of us by incorporating, which isn't too high of a task, 25 grams of soy protein per day. It's achievable.
Now, let's hear from Mindy Herman, registered dietitian, food and nutrition writer, and a guru on all the latest food trends.
Hi, Michelle and Marianne. Do you remember when vegetarian diets recommend combining a legume plus a grain at the same meal in order to get a complete protein? Thankfully, we've come a long way in understanding protein quality, especially for plant-based sources. The quality of soy protein matches dairy and other animal proteins. That is why soy milk is the only plant-based milk that can substitute for dairy milk in feeding programs. Research backs up the broad health benefits of soy consumption, including reduced inflammation, cognitive benefits, heart health, lower cancer risk, and several others. Studies also showed that the linoleic acid in soybean oil does not cause inflammation or oxidation in the body. An ounce per ounce, soy protein costs less than meat protein. In my house, we have a variety of different types of protein products, from yogurt to soy powder, and yes, tofu.
Now, let's return to our conversation. So since you mentioned 2025, let's put this in practical terms. What does that look like? It may be automatic for you, but, I eat protein, but I honestly say I don't eat 25 probably grams of soy protein, but maybe I do. Who knows?
Per sitting, you probably don't across the day in snacks, but maybe at your evening meal, right? So yes, in one lump sum, that can be daunting. In the sports nutrition world, that's exactly what they're going for, and that's often delivered through a lot of the ready to drink beverages where soy protein, we know it's functional enough that you can get 25 grams of soy protein into a beverage, or 25 grams of protein when it's blended with other protein sources as well, just to optimize the taste and all the other functional characteristics. But you don't have to get the 25 at one sitting. The health claim actually indicates that you can get 6.25 grams over multiple eating occasions across the day, just to try to get to that target quantity for the day. And there's a lot of ways to do that. A glass of soy milk on your cereal or next to your breakfast in the morning is 8 grams of protein. Simple, a simple swap out. A snack, we talked about edamame earlier. You can get snack packs that have varying, either the dried edamame or dried soybeans or the fresh that you can steam. Simple snacks to have next to a desk during the daytime and really satisfy that hand-to-mouth thing that we've got going on these days when we're absentmindedly trying to get through the day with a snack. A lot better than some things I reach for. But also center of plate options can help us to meet our goals, whether it be a plant-based meat alternative or a traditional soy food like a tofu. And I often practice a little bit of stealth nutrition when I'm making meals for my family, whether it's isolated soy protein sprinkled into baked goods like pancakes in the morning just to boost the protein, or dinner options where I like to blend. I'm a really big proponent of blending. So if we have beef protein in a recipe, I'll put in textured vegetable protein, which is soy protein, and bring the two together. And there's functional benefits, and we're not sacrificing on protein quantity or quality in a chili soup or a meatloaf or whatever meets the expectations of a teenage palate.
So I saw that you mentioned about the meatloaf, and and of course blended has been a lot of times mushrooms and ground beef, and so this was pretty similar. But I'm curious, what just for practical people are like, oh, I think I want to try that. What? Not that you're going to give a product name, but what type of, you mentioned textured soy protein, but what has worked, and especially for teenagers' palates, it's worked. So what blend do you typically use? I'm curious.
Yeah. When it comes to soy protein as an ingredient, like the powdered versions that I can blend in with like flour, I just look for one that is either minimally flavored or maybe vanilla flavored and does not come with sugar. And so that can be like your big supplement jugs. I'm brand agnostic. I'm looking for just the protein, maybe a little bit of fiber, but I don't need the sugar. I'm going to put that in the recipe myself, or if I wanted to just do a DBB, I would cook it up with sweetener in my own way, or sweeten it with fruit and whatnot. When it comes to those baked goods, it's where we are in the Midwest, I have a hard time finding textured vegetable protein. So I do order it online. I gravitated toward a brand that had Hoosier in the name. Come to find out, it wasn't made in Indiana at all, but that's okay.
It made you feel better.
It made me feel better. But I just order online bags of textured vegetable protein. I keep it in the pantry, and it has great shelf life because it's dried. You add water and flavor to whatever the recipe may be, and it helps to extend. I actually have 5 teenage eaters in my household, so I really want to stretch my ingredients and also deliver on nutrition. So it's a Google for textured vegetable protein is what and comes to my doorstep.
So so you not only get adding more quality and nutrition to a product, it probably helps offset some of the costs, when it comes to we know beef prices have talked about, but you're not sacrificing, definitely not sacrificing protein, quality in regards. And obviously if your teenagers love it, the taste is great. And you and I were talking earlier, I think about how textured proteins and protein, those of us that kind of grew up in the era of the first introduction of soy burgers / they'd be, they've got that old soy protein in it. Well, soy protein isolants come a long way from what we used to know as that combination of those frozen burgers that would be served in school or whatever. So, and maybe a little bit, I mean, that shows a perfect example of through research and really looking at, what's the difference of a soy protein isolate that gives you that quality versus, for some of us, that initial impression wasn't the same.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. When I first joined a company that sold soy, I don't know how it came to be, but I attended a cookout at my parents' house, and they brought out some soy burgers. They had no color, they had no flavor, and all I could say, how long have those been living in the freezer? And it was not a pleasant eating experience. I think food companies, food scientists have figured out, soy's been in our food supply for quite some time. Going back to meeting, its original reason for being in our food supply was it was provided an alternate protein source for infants. We had to learn how to make this high quality protein source safely for sole source nutrition at such a vulnerable time for infants who weren't able to tolerate breast milk or cow's milk formula. So that's where it starts. And with the application of food science, as you mentioned, we know how to make it taste and better, and the texture and everything else taste good and deliver on our expectations. I think that technology lived within many of the food companies or food science labs across the country, but just didn't quite make it out to consumers until the consumers were ready for it. So we have seen this swell of plant-based meat alternatives that have hit the market, all the different burgers that have different eating experiences, and absolutely, depending on what you're seeking, they can deliver on that eating experience. And now the food science targets have shifted to other meat analogs, and it's really exciting to see what can be made. It starts on bench with the science, but when it ends up on our plates and is enjoyable and again can be incorporated into our daily lives, that's pretty exciting to get to be a part of that and try something new.
Well, and I think just describing what you and I both and many have experienced, but it shows the importance of research and how. Sometimes if it's a whether it's soy or other commodities, we kind of get a little bad rap sometimes from the research concept. But it just shows that if you got to put some money in it to really find out about what's the value of the research, and especially the consistency. And I think when you mentioned in that regard. So I want to just hit a little bit, because when you talked about research and the new research, the one of the key points I think is when you were saying 88 studies, and that's where for just sometimes listening to the headlines and we all scratch our heads sometimes wherever it is something comes out, this is good or this is not. You still have to look at the total science, which if I'm just looking at a headline, it's hard to do. But when you validate something like this, that it says 88 studies, it's a consistency. It's not an N of one. It's not me doing or a very isolated 10 people say X. So we know the health benefits. What are some other either continue to be proven health benefits of soy? And sometimes these are actual health benefits of soy amid sometimes some myths. Yeah. I'm curious, just what we know to be consistent.
Yeah. Well, as a high quality protein, soy can support health in similar ways to other high quality sources of protein in terms of muscle, we think a lot about our health and wellness and our ability to remain active over the aging process. So whether, trying to build muscle or maintain, soy has been well demonstrated to support muscle health at reasonable doses, around that 20 to 25 grams again, or weight management. It's a satiating protein source. So if you incorporate that into your diet, it can help to support satiety and support our total caloric intake and our health goals related to weight loss or weight management. You mentioned the totality of the evidence, or N of 1. I think a lot of the things we hear about soy are stem back to some of those other approaches to research, whether it be a case report, and it's not just a study N of 1, but it's a person N of 1,
right,
that have led us to have concerns about incorporating soy into our diets for those particular health outcomes, weight management or muscle health. Oh gosh, maybe it's feminizing, and if I'm trying to build muscle, I shouldn't be consuming soy. That's absolutely not true. When we look at the totality of the evidence, again, meta-analyze multiple clinical trials, which has been done and done again, and just to keep a pulse on the literature. Soy has not been shown to have any impact on male or female hormones in males or women, or in any of the effects that one might expect. So that idea that soy may have an impact on any aspects of hormones has not been proven out in that highest level quality of evidence.
So the good news is we can enjoy soy and realize there's a lot more. There's the health benefits there, and not be concerned.
Correct.
In that regard.
Across the lifespan, yes.
Yeah. So with April, as I mentioned earlier, with April being a soy month, and you talked about how you add textured soy protein into meat products, but what are some other ways you addition? And I mean, obviously there's the soy milk and those type of products, but what's some other ways that we can think about either preparing at home or even going out to eat to enjoy our soy and realize that there's a whole new world of taste out there?
Yeah. I come back to, I cook for a family, and I've got kids on the go, and the same thing can be said for farmers on the go, grabbing those bars, because you don't always have time to eat or get out of the tractor or stop what you're doing. The bar aisle can be overwhelming, but there's absolutely a lot of those products that are made with soy protein and quantities and flavors to meet your needs and tastes. The traditional soy foods, the tofus and whatnot. I just got a hot tip from some of the Soy Nutrition Institute members saying that if you freeze tofu before you prepare it, it's a game changer in terms of incorporating it into other food into your recipes, that it can have real benefits to the eating experience as well. So that's what I love about being in the world of soy. There's always a hot tip around every corner and something new to try. I hope that we're going to go, since we've gotten across the river, I hope we're going to go out to lunch and we're going to find some other options as well. Where I live, we have one restaurant, and I'm thrilled to have it in our town. And I'm so happy that it has on the menu a plant-based burger that I can choose whenever I go there. I'm happy to have the restaurant and happy to have a place to go. We don't have more than the one. Shameless plug for Opie's. It's my favorite, and one of our girls works there. But you can also find those options when we go out to eat. As an excuse to try something new. You don't have to commit to the whole package in the grocery store if you don't want to. Take a leap in a restaurant and try something new, and you might find you like it.
Well, one of my favorite restaurants in Lexington, I always go, is like an Asian bowl, and the very, I'll add salmon or whatever, but it always has a great combination of, the greens and rice and edamame, and so it's like everything that you combination that you want, and the other vegetables in that regard. So I think the key here is, as we kind of summarize, is that the wonderful thing is that protein quality animal or plant, good quality, and when we see the headlines, we really see that there's a lot of when we come out and it talks about the health benefits, is that there's a lot of benefits to including soy protein in your diet, and to focus on that and not be concerned about any potential side effects, because at the end of the day, the benefits outweigh any perceived risk in that regard.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And, we all can do, we all need to try to put ourselves out there in those tough conversations, those nutrition conversations, because there's just a gap in terms of what people know and the behavior aspect, the readiness, that pathway to be ready to try something new and to have the opportunity to receive that information, to enable the decisions for a health or lifestyle change. It seems our population is more ready or more attuned to nutrition messages than they've ever been. And so I applaud you for delivering good quality information to fill that gap or that opportunity. At the Soy Nutrition Institute, we also try to provide resources to healthcare professionals or consumers to help to distill the science, because I talked about meta-analyses and consumer research, and we try to put it all together into a digestible fashion. And so encourage listeners to seek out either the Soy Connection or sniglobal.org for more information.
And we'll be sure we'll also add that link to to the podcast, so folks, when they're listening, then they can go right there and listen to it. So thanks, Michelle. It's been a great opportunity to catch up, but most importantly to really focus in on. I've learned some new things too today about soy protein, because I think the key here is that there's an opportunity to incorporate soy, and to know that what we see growing is going into our food as well, but there's a variety of opportunities and new ways always to incorporate soy. And you're a perfect example. You can have soy and you can also have animal, because after all, you're on a farm where soy and beef is grown. So it's I think it's always important. It's not about one or the other, but it's really kind of a combination of how we eat, as everybody says, a pattern, but how do we eat a variety of foods that really is optimal for our health. And so here's to our health in April with soy, and as we here's to our farmers' health on making sure that hopefully those soy will be growing well without any floods this year. So
harvest with health. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you again, and know that when we is the opportunity to know that the benefits of research is really looking at how do we improve what we provide on our table, but also literally from the farm to the table.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening, Rooted and Restless. It's all about digging deeper into the behind the scenes about food, agriculture, and nutrition, because after all, every food has a story, and sometimes it's not as simple as it seems. Subscribe to Rooted and Restless wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us on YouTube.